Hello, and welcome to Radical Playtime, the podcast by Skateistan. Skateistan has been supporting at-risk youth with the spaces and resources they need to learn, play, and shape their futures for over 15 years. And this podcast was started with that ethos in mind. Creativity makes us better at taking on life's challenges, but in a world that puts productivity before anything else, lifelong play is truly a radical thing. We'll be speaking to academics, artists, activists, and athletes to explore the true value of staying playful. I'm your guest host, Jessica Edwards, and I'm a filmmaker based in New York. My most recent feature documentary, Skate Dreams, examines the exponential growth in the participation of women and girls in skateboarding and how they've created space in both the industry and community of skating. I'm incredibly excited to spend some time talking to one of the subjects featured in Skate Dreams and a trailblazer in the sport and a very dear friend, Mimi Knoop. Mimi has been a true changemaker in skateboarding. She helped lead the X Games boycott in 2005, resulting in equal pay for male and female skaters. She has advocated for women's skateboarding through her work with the Women's Skateboarding Alliance, WSA, and as the head coach and high performance director of the inaugural U.S. Olympic skateboarding team. Her contributions to the sport have helped build more equitable skateboarding communities around the world. Hi, Mimi.
Hi there.
I'm so glad that we could do this together today. We are time zones apart, many time zones apart. And so I'm thrilled that we could spend a little bit of time looking again at some of the themes that we explored in the documentary. And I'm so glad to see you. So why don't we start with your origin story of skateboarding? How did you find it?
I don't think my story is an uncommon one. Just a really small little kid, 6 or 7 years old, and a neighborhood friend I played with had a skateboard, and I tried it out one day, and the rest is history. I remember distinctly feeling like I was flying and just wanted to do it more. So it's something that kind of followed me throughout childhood.
And most kids, they'll try once and they'll kind of give up and, or they'll like a little bit hurt themselves and just kind of move on. What was it about this? What was it about the toy? Because that's really what it was at that point that made you want to stick with it.
Yeah, really going back to that feeling I had just as a little kid of feeling like I was flying almost like on a magic carpet or something. That sort of drew me to it, but I'm not really the adrenaline junkie type. So for me, it was just like a slow burn over many years, learning very, very slowly just the foundation of how to skate. I think being a calculated risk taker, and just being stubborn and not wanting to quit when I'm into something kind of kept me going through growing up.
Yeah, the idea of resilience has come up a lot in all of my conversations with any skater. It's the idea that the resilience that you build on the board follows you around. And I think that idea of resilience is something that Skateistan is sort of wrapped up in Skateistan's mission of radical play. Why do you think that idea of radical play or sort of stick-withedness is like essential for kids?
I think radical play just in and of itself is important for kids. It gives them sort of the space to explore on their own environment, and they can kind of work out how things work and how to interact with other kids, other skaters if they're skateboarding. I just think it's a great way for them to get to learn things on their own. It's sort of where imagination and wonder and ingenuity all meet, and I think it's really powerful for kids to have the space to do that.
A lot of skaters that I've talked to have mentioned the sort of intersection of creativity and skating. And I'm wondering if that was something that you thought about or pursued as you got older, when you were skating more as a sort of a young woman.
Yeah, once I got into it more seriously and was skating with the top pros in California and doing competitions and skating competitively, I think it did the aspect of creativity did sort of fold in because the tricks you learn are really intentional for a lot of skaters. So yeah, it was it was a way to stand out and be original, just to learn something that maybe not everyone else was doing at the time.
Yeah, it feels like the history of skating is kind of built on that, the ongoing progression of it. Um, when was the first time you saw another female skateboarder?
The first time I saw another female skateboarder was when I was bartending in the Virgin Islands. I was about 22, and I worked at the only sports bar on the island that had a TV at the time. So yeah, I just happened to glance up, and this is back when skateboarding was not really a mainstream thing. And I saw Carabeth Burnside and I believe Jen O'Brien, maybe Jody McDonald, skating in a competition called the Soul Bowl at the time. And yeah, I'd never seen anything like that. So my thought at the time was I definitely missed the boat. I'm too old to get into this competitively, or on a professional level. But yeah, seeing them on the TV that day was a shocker for me.
And can you kind of like compare and contrast now between like the amount of participation there is for women and girls compared to what it was when you were 23?
Yeah, I mean, well, back then no one really had any idea how many girls were out there skating just on their own. There was no, way to know that outside of magazines or videos at the time. But yeah, the amount of girls skating now, and especially on a global level and all, countries outside America, is huge. I mean, we come across new girl skaters every day on, Instagram, and I think having that accessibility of seeing other girls skate just by looking on their phone is really powerful for a lot of the younger girls today. So it's really cool to see where it's gone to.
Yeah, that idea of, you can't be what you can't see, is I think so essential for all kinds of folks, like women and girls and non-binary folks and people of color, and that like the Instagram and TikTok and that kind of social media, it's not perfect, obviously, but one of the things that I was surprised about when we were making the film was how fundamentally it allowed there to be a shift in people participating, and the idea that you thought you could do it because you saw other kids doing it or other people doing it. That was a big that was a very big sort of aha movement for us when we were making the film. How do you think that the skateboarding community sort of benefits from that expansion of participation? Like, it kind of moves away from this kind of typical, heterosexual male dominated sport and becomes so full of these other communities that are flourishing around the world. Like, how does everybody benefit from that?
I think the main way people benefit is they likely feel more comfortable trying skateboarding for the first time because they see, there's other people like them doing it. And, when I was a kid, and a lot of the women from my generation, we were sort of one percenters skating with the boys, which is great as well. But I think, not every little girl's gonna be wired that way. So I just think it really, creates a situation for them where they have the confidence to go and try. And I think that's one of the biggest hurdles is just, getting out there the first time and not overthinking it too much. So yeah, I definitely think it creates more opportunity for that.
And also the idea that it's okay to fall,
Yeah, well, it's okay
right?
to fail or not even be good. I think the a lot of people think unless you're really really good at skateboarding, you shouldn't do it from the outside perspective, and that's not true at all. I think it's the level of ability really plays no factor. It's more, this is for anyone that wants to try it, and it's different for everyone. So it's kind of it's up to the individual, where they want to take it. And I think that's the cool thing about skateboarding.
So, going back to this idea of radical play and just kind of letting kids be kids, I think that your generation of skaters fought so hard to be included and gain that access and gain that inclusion. And now, there feels like there's so much money and there's so much attention and there's so much sort of possibility or opportunity that maybe we're kind of, you've got really little kids coming in to sort of participate in the more competition or industry side of it. Obviously, the Olympics have something to do with that, so we can get to that in a second. But what are we, like, I guess my question is, like, what are we in danger of losing?
Yeah, I mean, skateboarding's always had, its ups and downs. I think even though there's more mainstream appeal and acceptance and perceived money in the sport, I still think it's really difficult to carve a path as a professional skateboarder, whether you're going the competition route like the Olympics or you're just doing more traditional route of, going out and filming and getting sponsors and sort of, controlling your own destiny. I still think it's really tough. It's really hard to make it even now.
I think it's what we might lose, right? That, like, if the focus is too much on that, that, like, yes, it is more accessible and the pool of is wider for girls and for boys and for, again, like, kind of all kinds of folks. What do we lose if we're only going down that path, trying to, like, make this a professional thing?
I don't think we are only going down that path. I think it's just another option that's there now. You always stand to lose something if the wrong people come in and control the sport. And I think that really needs to be something that's focused on. I think people that have the athletes, people that have the athletes' best interests in mind are the ones that should be sort of controlling things on an organizational level at the brands. I think when that stops happening, we have a problem. But yeah, I think, the right people need to be in leadership roles, and we need to have women and non-binary people in leadership roles to make sure that, everyone's represented at brands and competitions and the things that are happening out in the world.
Yeah, like the places where those resources are allocated, that it's not just about having, girls in the competition or people of color in the competition. It's like, who has their hands on the budgets,
Yes.
behind the scenes, and, like, how few actual women or non-binary people are there. So maybe we'll do a follow-up, maybe. Speaking of Skate Dreams, when we started in 2018, you were my first call, obviously. I think I talked to you and Lisa Whitaker sort of within, like, a week of each other. I guess I'm wondering, like, why you said yes, why it was important that, you shared not only your part of the story, but this kind of history was told. Why was that important for you?
Yeah, for years prior to meeting you, I always had wanted the story of the 2005 X Games boycott to be told. I feel like it's a really important part of history. Highlighting Cara Beth Burnside and Drew Mearns and their roles in that as well was really important. So yeah, when I met you, I had a really good feeling about you, and I was like, all right, this is a great opportunity to do that. And then over time, it evolved into this multifaceted opportunity where we can also tell the story of someone like Teen in Cambodia, who's doing something completely different from those in Southern California or America, that's also just as powerful and just really pulled a lot of heartstrings for a lot of people watching. And I think that was also an important story to tell. So that's the reason I said yes. And yeah, I feel like we only hit the tip of the iceberg. There's so much more to everyone's story in the film and people not in the film that, let's make a part two.
Well, what do you think we left out? Like, I think, I know what I wish we had more of. I can sort of add, like, a small anecdote was that when we started filming, there was a very important storyline for me that was happening out of Ghana and Accra. And
Mm.
they had a really tight knit group of women who were skating together. That they had sort of emerged from a surf club, and there was a woman there named Sandy Alibo who was working extremely hard to get a skate park built. There wasn't a skate park anywhere in Ghana, and she had this like incredible group of kids who were really excited to participate but really didn't have a place to skate. And over the course of filming, we watched her raise the money, get the support globally and internationally, and really just find the property and build this park. And, by the time that the movie premiered in 2022, she had opened this park. And the movie does not include her story. And it was, you have to sort of pick at a certain point as a filmmaker, and it was one of the hardest things I've ever done, was to not have that footage included, because I was so impressed by how tenacious she was at getting this done and really like building this community from the ground up and across. So somebody call me, and then we can cut all of the footage that we have together and get Sandy's story out in the world, and the Freedom Skate Park out in the world. So shout out to the Freedom Skate Park in Accra.
That's exactly my point. Is there's so many other untold stories out there, and there's a huge opportunity for someone to go out and tell them. And I think they'd really inspire a lot of people and make even more change happen. They were told so.
Yeah, I mean, you have your finger on the pulse so much. Are there other stories that you have heard kind of in the last couple of years? Obviously, it's been about 2 years since the film came out. So is there anything kind of that you can think of that was like, oh, now we have to tell this part of it, that so much has sort of advanced since we finished making the film. Now we have to like tackle this piece.
I mean, there's several different stories out there. I wouldn't say there's just one I would highlight. I just think there's that much going on. Just the Olympic side of things itself, you could tell a story on. I think that's ever evolving. We have 11-year-olds doing 720s now. Alyssa Steamer just got the cover of Thrasher. Like, things are cooking, and I think that's all happening because of years of other things that happen behind the scenes that probably a lot of people don't know about. And I think, there's opportunity there to go and dig some of those stories up.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that Alyssa Steamer Thrasher cover was just like put so much light in the world. It was so awesome. And we talked, I think it was like one of the first scenes in the movie, you show us some of the clips that you have like in your garage. And, Cara Beth was the first woman on the cover of Thrasher. And I think we did the math at some point that like there was 4 or maybe 5 women on the cover between like in the 28 years that the magazine had been in being printed. And then I feel like in the last 3 years there's like 10 or something, like just in the last 2 or 3 years, which is
Yeah,
good on them. They got the memo. Good job, guys.
Yeah, I think that women move the needle now for even Thrasher. I think it's we have legacy brands benefiting from featuring women and non-binary skaters, and that's what we always had the vision for 10, 20 years ago. We knew that was coming ourselves. We were in the trenches, we saw it, but the fact that it's happening now is really rewarding to witness. And yeah, for someone like Alyssa, who's deserved a cover for a couple decades now, like it's really nice to see that happen for her. And I feel like it's a snowball. It's just gonna keep building now, and it's really cool for the younger generation.
Yeah, which I think even more essential that we sort of record this history so that they know that they know it, you know? I mean, you
Yeah.
referenced the 11-year-old doing the 720. You know, the Olympics have moved the needle in a lot of kind of different ways, I think. You know, and when it was announced as an official sport, there was a lot of backlash. And I'm wondering if you can sort of talk about your perspective in it, because I think you know, you weren't like the house is burning down. And could you sort of talk us through like how you felt when the Olympics decided that they were going to include skateboarding?
Yeah, I think that, you know, up until that point in time, it was very difficult to carve out any sort of viable career, you know, as a female skateboarder. And I think, you know, the Olympics did open a door for many people, even people that were not going the Olympic route. You know, Adidas signed Nora, and her career has been amazing to watch. And she, you know, she chose not to do the Olympics, so it's still affected everyone on a whole, and I think created a lot of opportunity, you know, for women to have careers that had nothing to do with competition. All of a sudden, that was a thing that could happen, and yeah, I feel like it's exploded since then. I think, you know, there's always pros and cons to everything, but for us at the time, it created more opportunity for women in other countries on an international level, because then they had support from their governments to go and pursue skateboarding professionally. And I think from a progression standpoint, we've seen the needle really move, especially in Japan and Brazil because of that. So yeah, I think overall it's created a lot of good things for women in the sport, but yeah, we always saw it as an opportunity. So
Yeah, it's you know, you think about like what teens work in Cambodia, like at Skateistan Cambodia, and how she always felt like having the Olympics legitimized the sport for her kids, like that the kids that she was
yep,
teaching and mentoring, and that, you know, that there was all of a sudden like female heroes that these little, I mean, and male heroes too, obviously, like these
yep,
little kids could like look up to. Um, you know, and that doesn't have anything to do with like whether you're core or not core, you know, it's just about like loving your
yep.
sport. So, um, you know, I think my watching, you know, it's been 2024. We'll see our next, you know, Paris Olympics, and we'll get another cohort of skaters, and it'll be really interesting to see kind of who ends up making that final cut. Um, Even for me, you know, over the course of the 5 years of filming, you know, the age of the participation in the Olympics has progressively like gotten younger, right? And I'm wondering if that, you know, takes away a little bit from the, you know, you professionalize your kids super early. Like, do we lose the sense of play, right? Like, will being a professional so little be sort of a detriment to the sport?
Yeah, I mean, it definitely can be. I think kids need to be protected, and you know, it's really up to the parents at this point, since there isn't an age limit on participating in the Olympics. But you know, that being said, I don't think every kid's gonna go the Olympic route. I mean, it's so specific and it's so competitive now. I think that there's really a lot of room just to still skate for fun and get out there because it's something you enjoy to do. So yeah, but yes, it's very much can become very serious very quickly these days.
What's your advice to, you know, the parent of a 7 or 8 year old who's like, my kid wants to go and do these competitions? Like, what would you say to them?
My advice is to find someone experienced and respected that can be a mentor, not only to the child but to the parent. I think there's no clear roadmap even when you've been doing this a long time, and I think finding a good mentor to help guide through a lot of the unspoken rules and sort of just the culture of skateboarding in general is really important. for longevity as well, just for the kid, if they really want a career, it's important to do things right. And yeah, that's what I'd recommend.
One of the other things that we talked about, and like Lisa Whitaker always made me laugh about this, because she would basically be like, we thought that this was going to hit, we thought skateboarding was going to be the most popular thing in the world like 100 times, and it like always went away. So obviously there's sort of this ebb and flow in terms of participation and money and, coolness. And, is it like, is there skateboarders on the, on your Wheaties box kind of popularity? Knowing, like, standing where you are now, do you think that, we're in a place where the future of skateboarding is secure?
I don't think the future of any sport is secure, if you call it a sport. But I think the act of skateboarding is secure. I think, doing it for fun is always going to be secure. I think, but yeah, in terms of professional opportunities and how the sport is run on an international level or Olympic level, it's pretty uncertain year to year. And I think it always will be. I just think, you can't base the future of a sport on marketing. I think it needs to be based on the participants and how they're approaching it. So I think in that way it's safe. But yeah, I don't think it'll ever be in a situation where people can put their feet up and just relax. It's always going to be a pretty competitive environment.
But there'll always be an opportunity to just grab your board and go out and hang with your friends and learn something new and,
yes,
use your creative brain.
Yes, it's one of the most accessible things out there outside of walking and running. I mean, it's, low cost of entry. You can do it almost anywhere. I don't think, skateboarding is going anywhere in that way. I think if anything, it's only going to become more popular, and more people around the world are going to get into it.
And thanks everyone for listening to Skateistan's Radical Playtime podcast. If you want to check out Skate Dreams and see more of Mimi and Nora Vasconcelos and Teen from Skateistan and lots of other skaters, you can find us on the internet where your favorite movies are streamed, including Vimeo, which is accessible to countries all around the world. If you would like to support the work that Skateistan does, please visit skateistan.org. Any donation helps, and let's keep all these kids on boards.